it's Nicole. Welcome back to the Simon Says Stamp YouTube channel. Today we're creating some Celestial Birthday Wishes cards with the May 2024 card kit called Celestial Wishes. I created 4 cards using lots of components from the kit, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with 2 of the products from the kit. The double-sided Craft Consortium Ombré 6x6 pattern papers and the awesome Sunny Fern emboss and cut folder. So it's this small, about 2.5-inch square embossing folder that also cuts out the shape. I first trimmed down some of the Craft Consortium Ombre paper to 2.5 inches, placed it in the emboss and cut folder, embossed and die cut it out, and now we're taking some Scorched Timber Distress Crown or a Scorched Timber Distress Crown from Tim Holtz, and we are pulling out the design. So look at how, if you hold your pencil kind of straight up and down, this is one of my favorite ways to add detail to an embossed image. We're going to lightly take that crayon over the embossed areas, and then I kind of like to buff it in with my ring finger or sometimes my index finger. It draws that design out, thus giving our little embossed square way more texture than leaving it plain. I absolutely love this look. So this is the first step to building our beautiful little celestial scene. I kind of imagine the round circle window here that we're going to be looking through this to the moon. We will be stamping and embossing some little stars here in the sky and things from the Celestial Wishes stamp set, also included in the kit. But look at that difference from the one on the right that didn't have the Scorched Timber Distress Crown compared to the one on the left. And of course, we want to do this for all 4. Now, I was able to get 4 of these frames from one 6-inch square of pattern paper, pardon me. Because of this, I decided to go ahead and create 4 cards. Now, I could have left or use that leftover pattern paper for something else, but I often love to create more than one when I am creating, and it was just as easy to do 4 as it was to do 1. Next, I have 4 other patterns, well, actually 5, of the pattern paper in the kit. From one of them, I am going to trim another set of 2.5-inch squares. So 2 sheets to create the little scene for 4 cards. I do have a little bit of leftover paper when I am finished. You can save those strips and use them for something else, die cut a thin greeting from them, add them as borders on other cards, all kinds of things. I'm also going to kind of flip my backgrounds back and forth to determine what color of moon I like best with my Sunny Fern scene. Once I have that planned, I do need to trim down backgrounds for my cards. So going through those same Craft Consortium Ombre pattern papers, I'm going to choose 4 more. So altogether, I used 6 sheets of pattern paper from the kit. I still have lots left for another project. I've also got some stamps out from that same Celestial Wishes stamp set that I was just talking about. You can purchase the coordinating dies for the Celestial Wishes stamp set if you would like. I will be utilizing those in my project today, and the kit comes with the Celestial Burst die, which I am using in another video. So once I have my backgrounds trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4, this leaves a thin white border when I place the background on a white card base, which I think is going to tie in really nicely to our stamped and die cut sentiment and remaining images for our card. I have pulled from the Celestial Wishes stamp set the 2 kind of branch or leafy designs, a moth. I've also pulled the stars that I want to stamp in the window, a little corner design, and 2 sentiments. So lots of stuff going on. Something else you'll notice is I did not have a ton of the same color of pattern paper. So I am simply taking my little evergreen or my fern design, laying it against the different patterns, and I just chose 4 that I think that they look good on. And really, it probably would have looked great on any of the paper in the kit. This is my favorite kind of paper where it looks like it has a watercolor treatment to it, but you didn't actually have to do anything. So now I like to lay everything out. Let's make sure that what I have pulled is actually going to fit. We're going to be placing the Sunny Fern in the upper part of the card, kind of centered on the top and two sides, leaving more room down below. Down below is where our sentiments are going to go, and to the left side is where our branches are going to go. The moth is going to go over on the right side. Now we're going to talk in a little bit about how I balance that with so much going on the left side of the card. But first, I want to get those stars stamped. There's a lot of steps here when creating multiple cards, I guess I would say, and doing a lot of embossing. So first I'm prepping that solid pattern paper 2.5-inch square that I trimmed to fit behind my Sunny Fern opening. I've stamped the stars on it, and I'm using some Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder on this. We will do this for all 4 of these squares. Now I kind of had already planned which background I liked with which Sunny Fern opening, so I'm going to keep those together. I've also paired them with a background. So I am just going to pull one at a time and keep all of my components together. It goes really quickly. And let's go ahead and stamp the rest of these. I've got a really nice, juicy Simon Says Stamp embossing ink pad here that I'm using. I do like to stamp the images a couple of times. That's why I like using a MISTI, so I can get that perfectly lined up every time. And that is going to just kind of add to the sparkly nighttime sky scene that we're building. Once we have this, we do want to do the rest of our stamping and embossing. And really, I just did them each one at a time. So we're going to stamp some of the branches from the Celestial Wishes stamp set on some of the Neenah Solar White cardstock included in the kit. As I mentioned, I am using the coordinating Celestial Wishes dies that don't come in the kit, but they are available for separate purchase if you like coordinating dies like I like coordinating dies. We're going to place the 2 branches in our MISTI, and I'm first going to ink them up with some Simon Says Stamp Dew ink. I purposely picked this color of ink as I felt like it coordinated back to the pattern papers really nicely. After we have the base color, we're going to take Raindrop ink and one of the sponge applicators, and we're going to pounce on some of that raindrop color right onto the stamp. And I'm going to pounce it on mostly in the center or the vein of the branch, keeping that color kind of to the center part. Then I'm going to take some pine ink, and we're going to do that mostly down near the base and stamp that. We will repeat this 4 times. I need 2 branches, a large and a small, for each card. And what I love about this is you can pounce and add a little bit more color where you feel you need it. But it gives you a beautiful ombre effect with no harsh lines. So again, we're going to do this 3 more times so we have 4 sets. Once we have all of our leaves, I am going to stamp sentiments, or the large sentiment, from the Celestial Wishes stamp set. I decided to use Happy Birthday for all of my cards. You could just as easily use any of the other greetings that come in the stamp set. Whatever you need the card for, I think it'll work for lots of occasions. I'm going to stamp my greeting on some of the smooth white cardstock included in the kit. You do get 2 sheets. Using the embossing ink, I did stamp it twice to get a very crisp image, and then I am embossing this time with antique gold embossing powder. I wanted this to stand out, and I thought the gold would look great. We are going to be adding some gold spatter here in a little bit with some Tim Holtz Foundry wax. So I just felt like the gold would help draw that out a little bit. So we are going to stamp and heat emboss 4 of these as well. Then we are going to stamp 4 moths. this time with brand new ink colors from the Celebrate Simon Says Stamp release. We will be using Sky and Night. Now, I was anxious to start putting a card together, so I wanted to make sure all of this was going to work before I actually finish. I'm going to take some liquid glue, glue the Sunny Firm frame down to the stamped stars background, and place it right where I want it to go on that background pattern paper. Look how beautiful. So it looks like you're looking through the fern into the night sky with all of these twinkling stars. Once I have this in place, I am going to lay everything out, take my secondary greeting, the phrase, and I am going to be stamping a corner motif, which is going to help balance out the design. Earlier, I talked about how the left side is it's left side heavy because of all of those extra greenery. The way I'm balancing it is adding that little corner motif, and we'll add the moth over on the right side as well. It's still not as heavy. I don't want it balanced completely covering up the Sunny Firm frame, but I love how that does make it much more visually appealing. So let's glue down this background first. Once I have one of these done, it makes it a lot easier to do the rest, since all of them will have the same exact corner and secondary sentiment. So once I have that panel in place, I'm going to position the corner element, and I'm going to use my die cut greeting to position my smaller phrase. Once I have both of those, I'm going to place this into my MISTI, and we are going to stamp all 4 of our backgrounds with the corner element and the rest of that greeting, and then emboss with white embossing powder. So we're just positioning it, making sure it's lined up perfectly. Now, I'm not going to glue the Sunny Firm down on the other cards yet, and you'll see how that makes it a little bit easier, but I really felt like I needed one to make sure that I had everything balanced. I didn't have tons of extra pattern paper, so if I made a mistake, I was a little worried that I would have ruined a bunch of backgrounds. So I went ahead and did one, and when I was super happy with that, I went ahead and mass produced the rest of the cards. I love how the white embossing powder really shows up on here. And I'm going to heat both the front and the back of the panels, especially on pattern paper, which tends to be a little bit thinner. I feel like this works really nicely. Oh, that looks so good. It's coming together. So next, I am going to put foam adhesive back behind the happy birthday so it's popped up. Then we're going to glue the larger branch directly to the card base. The smaller branch will be popped up with some foam kind of overlapping the larger one. Part of the greenery is back behind the happy birthday, and you'll notice that part of the greenery for the smaller piece is on top of the happy birthday, not covering it, just a little bit. It makes everything just work together so beautifully. Now it's very lopsided at this point, so we definitely need a moth. Just like we did with the branches, I'm going to ink the moth with the lighter color, which is the new sky color. Then we're going to take one of the sponge applicators and sponge the middle part of the body with the color Night to deepen and darken just the center. We're going to do this 4 times and then die cut all of the components and put together all 4 of our cards. To also balance out that right side of the card, we will be popping up the moth with foam adhesive too. So the small branch, the happy birthday, and the moth are all popped up with foam. Everything else is adhered directly to the background. Now, before we attach this panel to our white card base, I do want to add that extra bit of spatter that I was talking about. One of my favorite things to do is to take foundry wax from Tim Holtz and spatter it over the background, heat set it, and it looks amazing. It adds a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of shine. I absolutely love the effect. You do want to heat set the foundry wax. If you don't, it will kind of dry to a chalky consistency and wipe off or smear on your background. Once I have it spattered, I will take my heat tool and heat set it. I'm going to work all the way around, making sure to get all of the little parts and pieces. Look at that celestial shine. Now, I wanted to do this before attaching it to the white card base because I didn't want any of that spatter on the white area. I'm going to take my Simon Says Stamp dot runner and I'm going to put some adhesive all over the front, kind of leaving that little border all the way around, and then center my background and press it in place. The beautiful white border ties into the white outline of our stamped pieces beautifully. I'm going to trim off anything hanging off of the edge, place some of the beautiful gems included in the kit. These are the Warm Tones Positively Dazzling gems, and we're going to place the two of them in the center of the moth wings and one in that upper right corner. Pretty minimal, but just dressing up the moth a little bit and that little corner element. So beautiful and definitely will make anybody smile for their birthday. Now that I have one of the cards done, I can go ahead and do the rest of them easily. So part of the reason I wanted to do one of them first was to make sure that I got that corner element and that secondary sentiment placed exactly where I wanted them to go. I've left that in my MISTI, and so now all I have to do is grab my MISTI, grab my elements and attach them. I already stamped all of those backgrounds a little bit ago. Because I already have the corner in place, that basically tells me where to place the Sunny Fern background, as well as where to place my happy birthday right above that secondary sentiment. I like to put that down first, then add in the branches. I don't press it down too hard because I do need to manipulate it just a little bit to tuck that larger branch back behind it. Just like so. Place some foam back behind the second one, and we'll add the rest of the elements. Now, what I love about this is that it looks completely different on each different colored background you place it on. There is not a bad one to add it to. So I have a dark, deep purple, maybe even a dark magenta, a light lavender kind of watercolor background, and then of course that kind of more, I call it sherbet colors background. And again, adding the foundry wax. I did these all at once. The foundry wax does have a tendency to dry pretty quickly, and so I prefer, if I'm going to be doing more than one, to try to do them all at one time so that I can go ahead, get those all done, and I'm not wasting a bunch of product, and then I can go clean out my plastic box. Again, we're going to place all of these on those white card bases, add those jewels to the wings, and we have 4 birthday cards just like that. Now, even though all 4 of these cards are the exact same design and same sentiments, they all feature different colors. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about a card kit, is the ability to maybe mass produce a bunch of cards no matter what you need them for. These would also make fantastic friendship cards, sympathy cards, anniversary cards, whatever kind of occasion you need. I really think these would work. And again, you get lots of colors in these warm tones, so I just tried to match them on each of the card backgrounds. I love the glue press for adding a little dab of glue. And the embellishment wand, of course, from Simon Says Stamp is perfect for picking up all of these little bits and bobs and popping them in place. And there we go. We'll funnel them all back into the container and our cards are all finished. Thank you so much for joining me today for this set of 4 Celestial Wishes birthday cards featuring the Simon Says Stamp May 2024 card kit called Celestial Wishes. The supplies I use to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube for your convenience. Thanks for watching.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.